Hi everyone, and welcome to my next video in the Bayonetta series for the Xbox 360. This is Chapter 12, The Broken Sky. So in Chapter 11, you went up against the Virtue Justice, which was the third major boss battle in the game. Didn't think it was all that hard. In fact, it was pretty easy compared to past fights in this game, but still pretty neat and fast-paced and had a decent amount of variety. In this chapter, it starts off with a very lengthy cutscene with Luca, Cereza, and Bayonetta, and it gives a lot of good backstory for why Luca's in the game in the first place. They give hints about it earlier in the game, but this one really kind of goes into it in depth. And so after that story scene, you hop on board this giant airship, which I know I mentioned Uncharted in the last video, but this does kind of feel like it, especially that part where you're jumping between the cargo bins falling out of the plane. So once you're up here, you go through it, and it's pretty basic. I don't think there's anything new in here. There's some kind of cool set pieces outside, like this one. Looks pretty good. And then you meet up with Jeanne again, and this sort of feels Star Wars-ish, almost as if she's the Emperor talking to Luke Skywalker. And this goes on for quite some time. She uses Cereza as sort of bait, and then plays this non-interactive cutscene of them fighting. It looks pretty good, but for these I tend to think they're just a bit overwrought, and I would rather just play. And so after all this, you do go into a scene where you meet the next Virtue. Can't remember his name, but you will see him in just a minute. And after that is when you go into your second major fight with Jeanne. And she, this time, is pretty similar. She has a lot of the same attacks, but there is some new stuff thrown in there for good measure. And I gotta say, the first time I fought her several chapters ago, I just got my butt kicked. At first I thought, well, maybe this might be a little too hard, but it just takes some practice to understand what she's going to do, and she will say certain things right before she does a attack where you will be able to go into witch time and do some pretty good damage to her. And so I cut out a lot of dialogue from these cutscenes, but they still go on for quite a while in this clip that I made. And so yeah, this is where it is feeling a bit Star Wars like. And so now you're fighting on top of the ship, which is nice, a little better and more interesting to look at than the last fight, where you're just kind of on some rooftops. And so yeah, you do a few after you do some damage to her, the backgrounds will change a little bit. She has some new attacks, which are pretty cool to look at, and then she will next hop onto a motorcycle. And so the storm around you is going crazy, and now she's on her motorcycle, which you saw, I believe, in like Chapter 2 of the game. So it's kind of neat that you're fighting against her with it. It's thankfully, or maybe not thankfully, but it is a lot easier than just her standard array of attacks when she's not on it. So you just do that for a few minutes, and you'll take her out. And I thought that might be the end of the chapter, but nope, it keeps on going. So the next section, you run back into the airship, and you find Cereza. And now it turns into a bit of an escort mission. She doesn't so much follow you, but you have to carry her around. So as you're making your way out of the airship, you have to take her, and you'll run into different enemy mobs, and you have to be somewhat strategic in placing her somewhere safe. I didn't run into a situation where she lost so much health that she died, but I'm assuming that if you just plop her down in the middle of a bunch of enemies, they'll just kind of wail on her and you could get a game over. And I think that happened to me when I had to run with her down the hallway from the mid-level boss. So just be mindful of that if you're playing this for the first time. So you take out these enemy waves, and eventually you'll run up this part of the cargo plane and take out these flying enemies, and once these guys are dead, that will do it for this stage, and you just pick up Cereza and run outside, and it'll just close with no dialogue and just I believe the moon being obscured by some clouds, which looks nice. I like the way that looks. So that'll do it for chapter 12. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in chapter 13.